Good evening. Good evening. How are you guys? Let me get this situated. I hope everybody can see me. Hello, hello. How are you? Give you a couple more minutes to join. If not, I will just go ahead and talk about respectable drugs. Respectable drugs. Last week I was talking about social media and how it's just something that we've become addicted to, many of us. When I say respectable drugs, I'm basically saying drugs that have been normalized to the point where they are, not considered drugs anymore. Yeah. I'm just gonna test myself to see if it's playing. If not, yep, it's playing. It is playing. I haven't seen anybody join me yet, but I'm sure in time you will. If not, you'll catch me on the replay. I would love for questions to be asked, so it would be good if there are some people that are here. All right. I want to start off talking about basic survival needs. Basic survival needs. Nutrition. Why do you need nutrition? Well, you need energy. You need to be able to move. Your cells need to be able to grow in your body. Your tissues, your organs need structure. So things like organics. When I say organics, I'm talking about proteins and carbohydrates and fats, right? These are basic builders of our body. What do we need to exist? We need nutrition. And when I say nutrition, I mean carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and the vitamins and minerals that help those proteins, which many of them are enzymes, to work. So, magnesium and manganese and iron and, trace elements that are important. That's what we need. What do we need? We need oxygen. Why? Not to breathe, just to let you know. We breathe to take in oxygen for our cells to go through the process called cellular respiration. Like, in order to make energy for our metabolism, oxygen is necessary. Water is also necessary. All of the chemical reactions that happen in our body cannot happen without the presence of water. Our bodies, our cells are made of 75% water. That's what we need. Our temperature needs to be at a good place, 98.6, right? We should not have high or low temperatures. Why? Because those same chemical reactions that are happening in our body for our body to actually work have to happen at the right temperature. If it's too cold, it'll slow down. If it's too hot, our proteins will get denatured and they won't work anymore. So the right body temperature, that's what we need, right? What else do we need? We need the right pressure. We need the right blood pressure. We need the right air pressure in our lungs so that we can actually breathe in that oxygen that's necessary for our metabolism. That's what we need. We need the proper pressure. What do we need? Nutrition, oxygen, water, good temperature, good pressure. We do not need caffeine. We do not need caffeine. Caffeine is not a basic survival need. And unfortunately, I'm so glad I didn't really get addicted to that thing, but there's no judgment here. That's why I call it a respectable drug. I think maybe I've seen some numbers where like 10% of the population don't use caffeine in this world, like, or in the, developed world. So many people drink caffeine, but I just want you to know it's not a survival need. All right, good. It's good to know that. So let's look at what caffeine is. Caffeine is a drug. It is a psychostimulant. It is not a nutrient. It is a drug. It's a psychostimulant. Like any other psychostimulant, it is basically interrupting our normal brain chemistry. So there's this receptor called the adenosine receptor, and it is inhibitory. When the adenosine binds to it, it negates nerve function and it makes the brain go to sleep. Right? Because sleep is good. There are points, we should go to sleep. We should go to bed early and wake up early. Like, we should have a good cycle of sleep. But when people don't want to sleep, they take caffeine. They drink caffeine. And what caffeine does is the caffeine comes in the place of the adenosine. So while the adenosine would cause your brain cells to go to sleep, the caffeine blocks the adenosine from allowing the brain cells to go to sleep. And so you are very alert. Now, you'll see all kinds of papers, I'm sure, discussing how caffeine makes you alert and have cognitive function and yada, yada, yada. There are other ways to be alert and have cognitive function. You don't need a foreign drug, which is what it is, a psychostimulant, to have cognitive function. Unfortunately, because we're not getting enough rest and other things, we need to use drugs to do that. So that's the basics of caffeine. It's also known to increase dopamine activity in the brain. So if you remember, I told you about a while ago in my series, This Is Your Brain on Drugs, dopamine is a learning drug. And when it's there, what's increased, you're focusing, you're learning on something, you're learning about something. And if it's a good thing, it makes you feel really good about what just happened so that you can do it again. If it's really bad, dopamine will also be heightened, so you can learn to stay out of that situation. So caffeine plays a role in increased sensitivity to dopamine. So a lot of people get addicted to that increase of dopamine. So is caffeine addictive? Many people will say no, but I'm not sure if I agree. And I'll say why a little later. Is it as addictive as other drugs? No. But I do think caffeine is addictive. If you close all the coffee shops for the next 24 hours to 48 hours, what would happen in this country? All the coffee shops shut down. I dare America to do it. And we'll find out how serious this drug is, this respectable drug is. All right? So the coffee shops of our day don't just put plain caffeine in the drinks. I think there's a culprit, and his name is refined sugar. His name is refined sugar. Because, I was talking to a friend today, and she was talking about how her grandfather grew up with coffee back in Jamaica, and he lived for a long time. And I think 90 years ago is a little different than today. The type of caffeine is probably different, and in terms of how it's refined, as well as what's added to it. And I think sugar is increasingly added to our caffeinated drinks. And this is your brain on cocaine. This is your brain on sugar. Now, do we need sugar? It's one of the organics, carbohydrates. We need organic, that carbohydrate for energy. But an abundance of sugar also increases levels of dopamine. Why? I mean, it makes sense as to why. Sugar is important for our brain, and so it would lead to a heightened level of dopamine when we take it. But I wonder if the refined sugar is as addictive as cocaine. I wonder. That's something to think about. Come off of sugar. I remember when I fasted from sugar for about a week, and I just had a terrible headache. And I was realizing I was going through withdrawal from sugar when I fasted from it. So can you imagine a combination of both caffeine and sugar? That's what I'm going to talk about today. Let's look at our caffeinated drinks. I don't know if you can see this. I see it well, but it's a little smaller on the screen. It is said that we should have no more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. If you're going to drink caffeine, you should not have more than 400 milligrams. And I want you to look at the milligrams of a venti coffee, 475 milligrams. One venti. One. Right? Here's another coffee, large, 398. Just one large cup of coffee. Right? And iced coffees, 200. Cappuccinos, 230. Mochas, 175. Like frappuccinos, 130. How many coffee breaks do people have a day? I told you 400. I really believe in this country we are overdosing on caffeine. We are overdosing on caffeine, and it's very dangerous. But because it's so normal, nobody's addressing it. I mean, it's so normal. It's like, I gotta get my break. I gotta get my coffee. I'm no good in the morning without it. You remember what I told you need, right? You're no good in the morning if you don't get oxygen. You're no good in the morning if you don't get water, if you don't get carbohydrates and fats and proteins. If you don't eat food, if you don't get minerals and vitamins, that's where you're no good. You're not no good if you don't get coffee. You're, I believe, addicted to coffee. You're addicted to caffeine. Energy drinks is a big thing now, especially among students trying to burn the midnight oil. Look at the amount of caffeine that's in these energy drinks. One, half a bottle of a red line. Like, look at the Red Bull is okay, like 8 ounce or 80. But like 5 Hour Energy, just a 2 ounce bottle, is 200 milligrams. And people are like drinking that thing, multiple bottles. Hey, Yasmin, talking about respectable drugs, caffeine. Why? Because they need energy for the day. They're not sleeping. Could it be that they're not sleeping because of the energy drinks they're waking? Like, could it be that they're throwing off their sleep-wake cycle because of the amount of caffeine they're drinking a day? And then when they wake up in the morning, they're tired, so they have to get more caffeine, but then they're up at night. The leading causes of trouble is insomnia. Could it be that you have insomnia because the amount of coffee you were drinking all day? The amount of energy drinks you were having all day? I told you, 400 milligrams. Anything over that is considered overdosing. And just one 2-ounce bottle is 200. I think we're not good when it comes to caffeine in this country. Look at the blood flow to the brain. This is what happens to. I look at this a paper about. This is just one paper. I'm sure you can find multiple papers that say caffeine is good for your brain. Low doses, high doses, etc., etc. I really don't think caffeine is good for our brains, guys. So I'm just going to explain a short paper. These are people who drink caffeine, and then they were given a drug, whether it be a placebo or caffeine, and they measured their brain activity, blood flow, their blood flow to their brain. So when it's very green, there's lots of blood flow. So look at something, when you give people caffeine, there's low blood flow to the brain. You see it drastically compared to people who don't use that much caffeine. People who don't use much caffeine have a lot more blood flow as compared to when they give them caffeine, the same low users. So caffeine causes less blood flow to the brain. But look at this. Look at this. You take some people and you have them abstain from caffeine. They fast from caffeine. And there's a dramatic increase of blood flow to the brain. Why? They say because when they start drinking lots of caffeine, these are moderate and high users of caffeine, they upregulate that adenosine receptor that I was talking about. So you're taking all this caffeine, so now you have all these adenosine receptors to try to bind to the caffeine. And when the caffeine goes away, the adenosine receptors are calling for whatever it can bind to, so then it will call for adenosine, and then now there's a rush of blood flow to the brain when the caffeine goes away. Why do you think people get migraine headaches when they don't get caffeine? They stop drinking caffeine and they get headaches. And then they have to drink caffeine and then the headache goes away. That sounds like withdrawal to me, right? That sounds like withdrawal to me. What is withdrawal? Withdrawal is any physical or mental symptom that occurs after stopping or reducing the intake of a drug. I'll say this again. Caffeine is not a nutrient. It is a drug. It is a psychostimulant, but is the highest psychostimulant used in the world. So it's a respectable drug. But I feel like people are addicted to this thing because remember, you're not supposed to have more than 400 milligrams a day. So if you're going to these coffee shops and getting 3-4 of these large cups, like, you're most likely addicted to this. Anytime you pass a coffee shop, you have to go. And on top of that, they add sugar to it. So the combination of the caffeine plus the stimulation of the sugar is increasing addiction. Yasmin, absolutely. Between coffee, sugar, and throwing off the hormonal imbalance of poor sleep cycles, it's a wrap. Yeah. Yeah. Could it be that your off sleep cycle is because of the caffeine that you're drinking? Try to come off of caffeine for 2-3 days, right? They say symptoms, there's a paper that said symptoms such as headache, fatigue, impaired concentration between 12 and 24 hours of cessation. You just stop one day, they're saying. One day of caffeine and you're going to get headaches and fatigue. That's withdrawal. So what do? You take another dose and you feel great. And then you get the withdrawal, you feel bad. And then you take another drink, you feel great. And you get the withdrawal, and you feel bad. Break the cycle, guys. Break the cycle. I grew up as an Adventist, and caffeine was a no-no. And then all of a sudden, like that rule, I'm all about freedom and all that stuff. But we're taking this word salvific to another level. We're killing ourselves just so that we can say, well, that's not salvific. and now we can't sleep at night. People can't sleep at night. People get anxiety. Sometimes when you feel jittery. The reason why caffeine is a psychostimulant, it increases activity of your muscles. It leads not directly, it leads to increase of activity of muscles. Like, it's serious. But somehow we've normalized it to make it be okay, to the point where, it's glorified. We have great businesses that, we've made into classy, and it's great. And meanwhile, all it is it's a drug. It's a drug that you're addicted to. It's a drug that this whole country, a lot of the developed world is addicted to. Any questions? I only saw you, Yasmin. Thanks for joining me. Any questions or comments? Next month, I'm going to be focusing on why I believe in a creator. Now, I'm not going to be pushing creationism because I don't believe you can prove that a creator exists using scientific means. But I'm going to talk about some of the science that I see that makes me believe, wow, somebody created this thing. All right, no questions. See you guys next time. I plan to really go into my belief in somebody greater, and I'm gonna show you scientific things to show it. All right. Bye, Yasmin. Have a good evening. I am the phenomenal STEMist.